Denver's been drenched for an entire month, just in time for that new section of I-70 to open. It's a giant tunnel, so how do they get the water out? Colorado's return to normal keeps chugging along. The state made a big change today that might mean even more fans inside playoff games. The sense of normal was healing in a place where Colorado remembers the fallen. There was a message from this weekend's ceremony at the Colorado Freedom Memorial that we should all hear.
So far this year, the biggest race since the COVID hit.
And if you enjoy running by yourself in the rain, the Boulder Boulder was your jam. I'm Steve Stager in for Kyle Clark. This is next. Get this, for the month of May, Denver has gotten more rain than both Seattle and Portland combined. That mind-boggling stat from the National Weather Service had us thinking one thing: where does all that water go? More specifically, where is all the water going on that new section of Central 70, the part that is no longer high above the ground on a viaduct? Our Marshall Zellinger satisfies our curiosity.
It's rained a lot this weekend, but it's no 100-year storm, which is what the lowered section of Central 70 is supposed to be able to withstand.
It's been a soggy weekend for us all. There's been a lot of disrupted barbecues, but as far as traffic operations down on the new lowered section of I-70, it was business as usual.
CDOT has a system to keep the underground section of I-70 from going underwater, a system that goes beyond the drains in the roadway.
And then we pump it to a very large holding tank.
To the north of I-70 at York is a large circle. That's the pump station. It brings the water up to a detention pond. From here, the water will go through what's known as a micro pool to help treat the water, get the solid stuff out, before it drains here at the South Platte near the Denver Coliseum. That's just one of the features of the lowered section of I-70. There's also those 9 large fans. Those will activate depending on the air quality in the tunnel.
They will turn on if there is a very long duration where cars are stalled and idling underneath. We would turn 1 or 2 fans on. The other reason they are there is in the very unlikely event of a fire. We then want to be able to blow smoke in one direction and create a safe space for people to escape in the opposite direction.
If you're not looking down at the drains, perhaps up at the fans, and if you're out of the tunnel, you've got nothing to look at except for what's happening to the skeleton of the viaduct that we're no longer driving on. And Chuck wanted to know what happens with all the old concrete. Well, Chuck, it's taken to a site, I'm told, off of Quebec Street, where it is then recycled into the roadbed for the new part of Central 70. So what's old is new, literally.
My goodness, you're like the encyclopedia of things we didn't even know we wanted to know today, Marshall.
I've been called worse.
It's true. I like the sweater too, by the way. It fits the encyclopedia theme. Marshall Zellinger, thank you. Well, people out enjoying their day off and not watching the news will wake up tomorrow not realizing that Colorado has once again changed the public health rules. That includes the return of large gatherings inside with no capacity limits. The previous restrictions for indoor events capped them at 500 people unless given approval from the state health department. Ball Arena, for example, got the go-ahead to have 10,500 fans at Avs and Nuggets games. Now, the removal of those restrictions is one of several amended public health orders going into effect tomorrow. The face covering requirements have also been changed. They'll only be needed in public if you're 12 and younger and haven't been fully vaccinated. Or 12 and older and haven't been fully vaccinated, excuse me. It also changes the face covering exemption from 10 and under to 11 and under, since the Pfizer vaccine has been approved for everyone over the age of 12. We're up to almost 2.6 million people in Colorado having completed the vaccination process. That's nearly 45% of the state population. 440,000 people are waiting on their second doses. In all, more than 3 million people in Colorado have gotten at least 1 dose of the vaccine. Slowly but surely, hospitalizations continue to trend down in our state. 469 patients are currently being treated for COVID-19 in Colorado hospitals. That's down 2 patients from the day before, but down 42 patients from this time last week. Now, since a lot of you ask whether vaccinated people are getting sick enough to be hospitalized, the state says of the nearly 9,900 hospitalizations since the start of the pandemic, 183 people were vaccinated. That's under 2%. Our most encouraging statistic over the last few weeks has been positivity. Our current positivity rate is 3.5%. Our 7-day average is 2.8%. We haven't been that low since the fall. A 10-year-old boy died this weekend after what police say was his mother driving drunk. The boy was killed Saturday evening when investigators say his mother rolled her car on I-76 near Brighton. Police believe alcohol and speed were factors in that crash. Police say the mother, 27-year-old Karina Cecil, shouldn't even been driving sober at the time. She had 2 previous convictions for drinking and driving, and among the other charges she faces for this weekend's crash is driving with a revoked license. Cecil's other child was also in the car and injured, and a man was in the front seat. Police have not said if that man will police have said that man will not face charges. It got us wondering, if you get in the car with someone you know who's been drinking, could you face any liability, either civil or criminal, in a case like this? 9 News legal analyst Scott Robinson says not necessarily.
If you are injured as a result of their negligence, your knowledge of their intoxication can be used as comparative negligence to reduce or eliminate your economic recovery. So it can be used in a civil context to diminish or eliminate your compensation for the negligence of the drunk driver, since you basically assume the risk. If 2 adults get into a car and the driver is drunk and the passenger knows it, they're taking their life in their hands, but they're not looking at a jail cell.
Now, Robinson says a passenger could face child abuse charges in a case like this. Again, this man was not charged. Robinson says it's really common practice to only charge the driver and any parent involved in a crash in a case like this. Now, each of you, $5 at a time, have been helping raise money for some much-needed repairs to the Colorado Freedom Memorial. Here's Kyle with an update on where your fundraising effort stands and a quick message about what the plan is for those coveted logs from his basement.
Hi there. I hope that you have had a restful and reflective Memorial Day weekend. I just wanted to thank you for what you did this past week for the Colorado Freedom Memorial. Your Word of Thanks micro-giving campaign raised more than $40,000 to repair structural damage at that memorial to all of Colorado's fallen that's out in Aurora. That should just about cover the cost of the structural repairs out there, and they are tremendously grateful. Coming up on Wednesday is the first anniversary of your Word of Thanks micro-giving campaigns. You've raised more than $3.8 million for small to mid-sized nonprofits across Colorado. So the folks who give this coming week to a very special cause, as many of you as possible, we're going to get you a literal token of our appreciation. Yes, this is where the wood pile went. 1,000 or 2 tokens. Thank you so much. Enjoy the rest of your weekend.
The Colorado Freedom Memorial hosts a Memorial Day event for the first time in 2 years.
The Holocaust ended 70-some years ago. What has humanity learned from the evil we call the Holocaust?
And recognizes those Coloradans who helped liberate people like Jack Adler in Nazi Germany. A little rain wasn't going to keep Colorado's running community away, but a year after having to cancel the event because of COVID, the Boulder Boulder had to do what we've all done in the last 15 months, adapt. And we head out to the Eastern Plains for a lesson on pronunciation with a little Italian flair next. For the first time since 2019, the Colorado Freedom Memorial welcomed back a crowd over the weekend for Memorial Day observations. The pandemic interrupted the typical annual Colorado Remembers ceremony. In this comeback year, the ceremony included a flag raising for the U.S. Space Force as a new permanent display. They laid wreaths for the Colorado veterans honored there and tolled the honor bell. They also paid tribute to the 157th Infantry Regiment of the Colorado National Guard. Those guardsmen helped liberate the Dachau concentration camp in 1945. Holocaust and Dachau survivor Jack Adler, who now lives in Colorado, spoke about his experience at Saturday's event. And while his speech focused on what he went through decades ago, he offered a bit of wisdom that spoke to us today.
You know, we don't have to love everyone. I don't. But we should respect everyone. Mutual respect, guided by the golden rule, do unto others as you like them to do unto you, is the key to the survival of humanity. Until humanity will allow itself to be guided by the golden rule, we will continue to destroy each other.
The next time you visit the Colorado Freedom Memorial, the 157th Infantry Battalion flag will be flying. It's now a permanent fixture there. Rick Crandall, who runs the memorial, guesses the glass panels include the names of 60 guardsmen from that division.
After 2 gray, rainy days, the sun is actually starting to come out for some areas in northern Colorado. With this cold, wet weather pattern, temperatures are running way cool. We should be in the upper 70s this time of year. The storm that's bringing all the rain and snow to the state is starting to shift south, and that means the showers will end from north to south this evening. We'll see a couple of thunderstorms in southeastern Colorado and then a bit of patchy fog on the eastern plains. We get some sunshine tomorrow and then another round of fast-moving storms, but we're done with the cold, wet weather pattern and all of that heavy rain. Showers ending, skies clearing, low 43, areas of patchy fog, sunshine in 68, 20 to 30% chance of rain from storms tomorrow, and then we turn up the heat. 70s Wednesday, 80s for Thursday and Friday, and only isolated thunderstorms heading into next weekend.
So you know what we haven't done in a while? Answered your questions about how things are pronounced in Colorado. For tonight's round of What Do You Say? We're talking about a small town on the Eastern Plains in Lincoln County. It starts with a G, shares the name of a coastal city in Italy. Our viewers Tommy and Jerry, no relation to the cartoon, wanted to know the correct way to pronounce this name. So we reached out to the mayor of the old railroad town to ask, what do you say?
The correct way to pronounce is Genoa. The legend is that there was a railroad worker from Italy, and he wanted to be able to get back to his hometown of Genoa before he died, and he did not make it back. I think the Genoa aspect is just what the locals picked up on. It's just who knows who started pronouncing it that way, but I don't believe it was ever Genoa.
So Genoa is also home to an old tourist attraction called the World's Wonder View Tower. The top of the 6-story building was once considered the highest point between New York City and the Rocky Mountains. You can supposedly see 6 different states from the top. It's still there off Highway 24, but it's been closed for years for renovations.
If you run in a blizzard, you are sure to see another runner. That's just Colorado.
Neither snow, nor rain, nor sleet is the U.S. Postal Service's motto, but it might as well be the Colorado Runners' creed, too. Thousands of runners weren't going to let a little weather get in the way of their slow jog back to normal. These pets were happy to stay inside while getting outside, and it's the most Colorado thing we saw today. Next. I don't know how serious you can take me with the bottle of tequila on my shelf behind me there. I got to do a better serious take of that. For 40 years, the Boulder Boulder has been challenging long-distance runners on the streets of Boulder. But recently, that race faced all sorts of different challenges thanks to the pandemic. This year, the race founder says they're back, almost, and they're running with a purpose.
It's the Boulder Boulder Memorial Day race. We are at the Broomfield location.
My name is Steve Bosley. I'm the founder of the Boulder Boulder. I was the founder of the race in 1979. The Boulder Boulder came out, and the first year we had 2,400.
We are 3 friends, 30 over 30, 3 over 30, who live on 303.
We haven't been able to do 2 traditional Boulder Boulders. Easing back into it, there's no formula.
I ran a couple virtual races during COVID, and they were great, but you're missing the support and people cheering for you.
Yeah. We have 42 hours of social distancing, one of 6 courses, one of 3 days, 14-hour days.
It was really fun to just get back into kind of a race and have motivators to run with.
Nice job.
The key is keep people getting back to in-person running.
89 years old.
How can we get them back in the step in without just the giant step? And this started evolving.
This is my 17th Boulder Boulder in a row.
So it's holding the tradition and the honor of what we were doing with honoring Memorial Day.
Thank you so much to those who have served for our country and are currently serving. Today is really for them. Thanks, Uncle James!
I'm so glad you guys did this, really.
It was 50,000 on Memorial Day before.
This is what my son and I do. We've been volunteering together for about 5 years, but then we also ran it before that.
Nice job. Come on in here.
Filled in the pieces, and suddenly we got 8,200 people that it worked for. The biggest race since the COVID hit.
Nice job.
Keeping the energy alive and the tradition alive.
There's one race and 50,000 stories. And I think the stories are more emotional as a reaction to where we've been.
Well done.
Runners never cease to amaze me. This year's 10K race took place at 6 different locations throughout the Front Range with a limited number of participants during specific time blocks. Hey, may I make a recommendation, point you towards something that isn't ours, but is definitely worth your time? Memorial Day weekend can bring out the worst in crowds, right? Like nowhere is there that more evident than in some of Denver's most notorious parking lots. You know what we're talking about. You know the parking lots. And if you don't, 5280 has a great write-up on the 8 worst parking lots in the city. The 8 parking lots that make you want to tear your hair out after 15 minutes of searching for a parking spot. We're talking about Trader Joe's, both of the locations in Denver. The Capitol Hill King Supers, that one's so tough. There's always a cart in the one parking spot that you can get. The Total Wine and more on Colorado Boulevard. If you spend any time shopping in Denver, you'll probably already know this list by heart. We will post that full article on the next Facebook page. The most Colorado thing we saw today is both transparent and confounding, not unlike your feedback many days. That's next. The most Colorado thing we saw today, the people intent on taking their pets everywhere. You know, all of Colorado is really like this. Our viewer Alice came across a woman walking with her dogs, right? And then a cat in Genesee, but the cat's not walking. It's in a bubble carrier. So let's hope that Bubble Cat never crosses paths with Bubble Bird. There's Bubble Bird there. Lana saw Bubble Bird at a garden center in Fort Collins, because you want to bring your bird to check out the plants, right? I keep imagining them passing each other, bubbles bursting, flurry of claws, feathers flying everywhere, bubbles flying everywhere. What's the most Colorado thing you saw? Email us your photos, send them to us on social media. next@9news.com is how you get at us. By the way, if your cat actually sits in one of those bubble things, send me how you get the cat to do that, because I always imagine a bunch of scratches all over my back. You finished with your feedback now. Gay writes in, love the way I always learn something with Next reports. I wondered yesterday about what was being done to capture inevitable floodwaters to solve water problems of today and tomorrow. Water engineers deserve a shout out. Every engineer deserves a shout out. KJ writes in, says, Steve should have a hot dog and brew if he has to work on Memorial Day. Oh, KJ, you get me. I think I might actually go grab a hot dog, and I'll see you next time.